So this is seems like a very confusing graph with a lot of different things on it. It has those three main types of CNM relationships that I talked about: open relationships, poly, and swinging. But there are also a lot of different, within those, a lot of sort of subtypes that mostly refer to the rules that people have within these. So, for example, you know, in swinging, you can have soft swing, when it's like, we like swing clubs and public sex, but only have sex with each other. Or, you know, some people will have rules where you know, making out with others and maybe oral sex is okay, but vaginal and anal intercourse we only do with one another. So there are kind of different rules within that. Or within polyamorous relationships, you have things like polyfidelity, where yes, we're allowed to have other long-term relationships with other people, but only with a few other people. And that's sort of a closed circle. And then there's that big overlap with BDSM play and non-monogamy. You can do, so depending on, so there's BDSM play that's allowed with other people, but depending on what kind of other play is allowed. So you can do DS stuff with others, but only if there's no sex and no emotional connection. Or you can do DS with other people, but only if there's no sex. You know, I'm a, you know, or I'm a pro-dom, so there's another overlap there with transactional sex or commerce that may or may not be open and obvious to people. Of course, there's cheating as well here, because that kind of falls under non-monogamy. It's just not consensual non-monogamy. It's non-consensual non-monogamy. And so thinking about, or you know, another big rule that often works for people is don't ask, don't tell, where, you know, I know that you're doing something with other people, or we have a certain agreement of what is and isn't acceptable, but I don't want to know about it. Don't tell me beforehand, don't tell me afterwards. You just do it when I'm not around to know that it's happening. So to your question of, you know, what is going to happen in 10, 15 years, you know, of course it's just a guess, but I think I would like to see, and I think we probably will see less cheating in the same way that we see today, and more open relationships of some sort, with people playing with these rules of what is and isn't acceptable. I don't think everyone's all of a sudden going to, you know, become hardcore, you know, swingers having crazy orgies and sex parties every weekend. Although some people do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that's sort of too extreme for a lot of couples. But I think more and more couples are going to be open to the idea that, okay, you know, if every now and then, you know, once a year, someone did something, it's not the end of the world. Our relationship doesn't have to falter because of that. I would like to see, and I hope we get to see more or less of those one-sided relationships. So oftentimes in the swinging world, the poly world, you see sort of unequitable arrangements where only one partner is allowed to have multiple partners, but not the other, or and that oftentimes, not always, but more often is, you know, the women's rights are sort of restricted in what she can do, whereas the man is allowed to have sex with other women, and then the woman is not allowed to have sex with other men. She is usually allowed to have sex with other women if she so desires, but not other men. And a lot of women agree to that, agree to those arrangements. Oftentimes they, you know, they are bisexual, and so it's not like they're being forced to have sex with other women or relationships with other women. They do enjoy that, but they would probably also enjoy sex and relationships with other men, but they kind of settle to appease their primary male partners, and that really gets on my nerves. I really want to see less of that. I want to see more empowered women saying, no, if you get to have sex with other women, I get to have sex with other men because I like doing that, and I don't care if your masculinity is threatened over that. I think we're going to see more casual sex, but I'd like to see more well done casual sex. Often people do casual sex poorly, you know, in a way that's disrespectful or very detached, or yeah, without real kind of intimacy and passion put into that. Whether it's, you know, single people having one-on-one casual sex, or it's casual sex as part of relationships, but I'd like to see, you know, more of that done well. Yeah, I think mindfulness is a big part of what I mean by, you know, casual sex done better. On one hand, it's sort of being respectful to your partners. You know, oftentimes, especially young kids these days, especially a lot of that hookup culture that happens on college campuses, is done without a lot of respect. You know, especially the men tend to treat the women as with less courtesy and respect than they would treat, you know, just the regular human being, you know, their waitress at the restaurant. So that is one part of that. But another part of that is that being present in the moment. And there's a lot of research that has come out in the last 10 years or so on mindfulness in general, not just in sexuality, but being present in that moment, being really kind of fully engrossed in the experience that in the activity that you're doing, is really good for your mental and physical health. That you perform better in whatever it is that you're doing, that you feel better, that it increases your happiness, your sort of sense of well-being, and it even has some positive sort of physiological and physical health outcomes. And so there is absolutely no reason why that would be any different in sexuality. The more present you are in any given moment with your sexual partners, the better it is. It makes for a better experience for you. It makes for a better experience for your partner. It probably makes for a better orgasm if that is to happen. And it's something that people often have in long-term relationships, but have less of it in these more short-term kind of casual encounters that a lot of the non-monogamy you know, entails. So that would certainly be one area that we can improve on and kind of teach people to be present, to be fully in the moment. You know, even if it's a 15-minute quickie, you know, in a bathroom stall with someone that you just met, you know, an hour ago, and you might never see them again, you can still be fully present in that moment and make for an ecstatic experience. You know, turn something that would have been kind of like a fast food, you know, mediocre meal into a very delicious, you know, still fast, but delicious gourmet kind of experience. So, yeah.